Good evening, everyone. I'm Art Fennell. As always, thanks for being a part of tonight's program. Here's the question. Is the United States ready to add another state? Could Puerto Rico, once and for all, become our 51st state? Now, this is not a new issue. In fact, it's come up many times before. Since 1898, Puerto Rico has been a commonwealth associated with the United States after the Spanish-American War. And though it's an American territory, it is self-governing with its own governor, its own House, and its own Senate. But at the same time, Puerto Rico's federal matters like the military and Social Security are controlled by the United States, and President Bush is Puerto Rico's chief of state. But Puerto Rico is not considered one of our United States. Congress will soon be debating this. It's called the Puerto Rico Act of 2007. This legislation could ultimately make Puerto Rico the 51st state. Now, again, this could have some wide implications for the American political structure as well as the millions of people who now live on the island. As I said, it's not a new issue. The last time it came up was back in 1993. It was voted down then. So for background, here's a flashback report from 14 years ago from correspondent John Zarella.
The shade trees in the park provide relief from the stifling tropical heat. It's a place in San Juan where locals gather to chew the fat and discuss the latest topic, statehood.
Because you're not going to be a state here for 200 more years. The Americans in the first place don't want you. You're much too expensive now. They'd like to get rid of you completely.
The present system we have now, to me, is ideal because we have our cake and we're eating it too.
On November 14th, Puerto Ricans will vote, they call it the plebiscito, whether they want the island to become the 51st state. The other options, remain a commonwealth or become independent.
We're Puerto Ricans, we're not Americans.
At Maria's, the neighborhood watering hole, young people like Mildred Morales and Carmen Iglesias sip Cafe Tropicals and echo revolutionary patriots.
Because we are Puerto Ricans, we are not part of the United States, and I'm totally a nationalist, and that is what I like.
But Puerto Rico is in no shape to go it alone. The per capita annual income is less than $6,000. The economy is developing, but heavily dependent on the U.S. 95% of Puerto Ricans are believed split down the middle on either statehood or the current Commonwealth status. While the issue is controversial, the vote itself often evokes a "who cares" response.
I don't think the plebiscite is going to accomplish anything.
That feeling because even if statehood is overwhelmingly approved, the U.S. Congress has to vote to admit the island. And few people here think that will happen.
That report from 1993, and as you heard in there, the one gentleman saying that he didn't think Puerto Rican statehood would change one thing. Will it? Joining me now to talk about this is the president of the Puerto Rican Senate, Kenneth McClintock, a longtime supporter of statehood legislation. Senator McClintock, thank you very much for being a part of the program.
Glad to be here.
Lay out your case for me. Why is statehood a good idea for the people of Puerto Rico this time around?
Well, more important than simply statehood, it's a good idea for the people of Puerto Rico to be able to express themselves on whether they like the present situation or whether they want change. And H.R. 900, which is a bill that's being considered in Congress, what it would do is allow the people of Puerto Rico in a congressionally authorized vote, for the first time a congressionally authorized vote, to decide whether they want to remain as we are or whether we want to move towards change. If we want to move towards change, then there's two basic alternatives: integration through statehood or separation through independence.
And lay out the difference for me in the two.
Well, independence means that you would acquire your own national government. You would then have to go off on your own. You would eventually, either you or your future generations would lose your United States citizenship. If you become a state of the Union, then as American citizens that we are, we would become full-fledged American citizens. We would have the right to vote for our president, have representation in our national government, which we do not have now. We would have added responsibilities in terms of tax paying, for example, but we also have additional benefits. Right now, the working poor in Puerto Rico do not derive the same benefits that the working poor have in the nation. We do get some welfare benefits, but we do not get the incentives that, for example, the Earned Income Tax Credit represents for people who are working in low-paying jobs to keep on working, to follow the work ethic, and we need that assistance.
All of that said, is that helping the economy right now? What's the state of the Puerto Rican economy right now?
Well, the problem is that because we're not a state, because we do not have the full responsibilities and the full benefits, the gap between Puerto Rico and the rest of the nation has remained wide open. And we've experimented with what we have now, and it does not resolve problems in Puerto Rico. What we need is to have the same economic model that you have here in the 50 states of the Union, and we're sure that if that happens, the economic gap between Puerto Rico, which is the poorest jurisdiction in the nation, and the nation as a whole will start closing the same way that it closed in Alaska, the same way that it closed in Hawaii.
Sure. Well, do the people of Puerto Rico understand that? We heard in the report, although it was a dated report from some time ago, but they said clearly that we consider ourselves to be Puerto Ricans, not Americans.
Well, actually, the epilogue to that report was that although most of the people that were interviewed said that they were not Americans and they did not favor moving towards statehood, in that referendum in 1993, about half of the people of Puerto Rico supported statehood for Puerto Rico.
You think that would change this time around?
We think that that would change for one simple reason. You heard the guy at the end saying that this vote will not change anything. Well, actually, we're not proposing another Puerto Rico legislature enacted vote. What we're proposing is for Congress to consult the people of Puerto Rico. And when Congress consults the people of Puerto Rico, there would be it would imply that Congress will pay more attention to the results of that vote than they may have paid attention to votes in the past on local wish lists that were presented before the people of Puerto Rico.
And by having the congressional backing behind it, you think that could make a change? Now, my next question would be...
Well, first of all, it would lead more Puerto Ricans to vote. In Puerto Rico, we usually have 85% turnout. In that plebiscite, we only had around 70% turnout. When we asked the people why they did not turn out to vote, they said, because my vote doesn't count. It will not change anything.
So this time around, and it's all about the all-important vote, do you have the votes? If this goes to a vote in Congress, do you have the support in the key people and the key positions that you'd have to have it to get this passed through this time around?
Well, we don't have to have the whole roadmap established. We have to take things one step at a time. I have no doubts that if the Congress consults the people of Puerto Rico, whether they want to remain as they are or they want change, an overwhelming majority of the people of Puerto Rico, 80–90%, will support change. And if you then offer the people of Puerto Rico the alternative between integration and separation, all polls indicate that statehood would win by a very, very wide margin.
So, last question, timetable on when this will be resolved. What do you think?
Well, we hope that Congress will take up the bill in committee in September and on the floor before the end of the year. And we would urge congressmen and congresswomen in your viewing area to take a good hard look at H.R. 900 and vote in favor of it when the time comes up.
All right. Senator McClintock, thank you very much for sharing your insights. It's an issue we'll continue to follow.
Thanks.
All right. Hey, what do you think about this? I'd like to get your feedback on it. Do you think Puerto Rico, is this a good idea that it becomes the 51st state? Is it a good idea? Do you think it would negatively affect the people of Puerto Rico or perhaps even our own government? Email me your thoughts at cn8.tv. Click on the icon for AFR.